So, welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a very short span of time within 30 minutes so that you don't spend your entire day covering your current affairs. Now, just after watching this lecture, you need to revise this lecture as well because revision helps in consolidating these current affairs in your memory. Otherwise, you'll forget them. Now, you can revise these current affairs from our notes, and these notes are shared on our Telegram channel. Now, where can you find our Telegram channel? Just below this video in the comment section, you'll find a link. Just click on that link and it will take you to our Telegram channel. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. What about the current affairs of January 24th? The thing is that these days, current affairs from the perspective of civil services examination are not featuring that much in the newspapers of the day, because newspapers are busy covering Donald Trump's election and Donald Trump's new actions, his initial actions getting into office. So a lot of articles are on Donald Trump. That is not important for us. Okay. So in January 24th newspaper, there was this one important news item that is important for us, and that is again related to Donald Trump. And that was that Donald Trump decided to withdraw USA from WHO. Okay, that was just it. Okay, this was the only news item of significance in January 24th newspaper. So we have included this news item in today's discussion. Okay, because January 24th did not have much news items from the perspective of civil services examination. All right, now let's take a look at the topics we are going to discuss in today's lectures. So here's the list of today's topics. In total, we'll be discussing 4 topics. Okay, the first topic is, like I said, US withdrawal from WHO. Now, what would be the consequence of this action by USA? What is the procedure for withdrawal in WHO and what impact it would have on India? We'll talk about this. Then recently, Indian government has made an announcement that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be attending AI Action Summit in Paris. That would be held on Feb 10th to Feb 11th. Okay. On the sidelines of this summit, a lot of bilateral meetings would be held between India and France. Okay. So we'll talk about AI Action Summit and what is this AI Action Summit that is going to be held in Paris going to entail. Then you must have heard about this news, Saif Ali Khan's and Enemy Property Act, right? Saif Ali Khan has lodged a case in a court in Madhya Pradesh, and there is a dispute regarding some of his ancestral property, which has been declared as enemy property by Government of India. So what are enemy properties? We'll talk about this. And in the end, we'll talk about Chinar Trees of J&K. Now, these trees are one of the biggest tourist attraction in J&K. They are the hallmark of beauty of J&K, especially Kashmir Valley. So recently, the number of these trees is dwindling, and Jammu and Kashmir government has decided to preserve these trees. So they have come out with a project. So we'll talk about Chinar Trees of J&K. All right. So these are the 4 topics that we will zero in our attention on. Let's start with topic number 1, which is US withdrawal from WHO. So President Donald Trump signed an executive order, and in that executive order, he said that USA is going to withdraw from WHO. Now, the reasons cited for this withdrawal in that executive order are as following. So USA gave 4 reasons. First of all, USA was not happy with WHO's handling of COVID-19 pandemic. Then WHO's failure to adopt urgently needed reforms. Okay, reforms related to transparency and accountability. USA alleges that WHO is not that transparent and accountable. Inability to demonstrate independence from the inappropriate political influence of WHO member states. USA alleged that WHO was heavily influenced by China, and its conduct during the COVID-19 pandemic shows that China was running the show. Okay, so this is a serious allegation, but USA has leveled that allegation and it has decided to withdraw from it, and for continued demand of unfairly onerous payments from United States. The thing is that USA says that we are your biggest funder. Okay, most of WHO's budget comes from USA, yet WHO is being influenced by China and taking actions which are detrimental to American interests. This is what is being alleged by Donald Trump. Okay, so Donald Trump says that despite the fact that we are your biggest donors, okay, you are taking sides with China. This is what he says. Okay, so these are the reasons cited in this executive order for America's withdrawal from WHO. Now, first of all, let's take a look at what is the procedure to withdraw from WHO. Okay, look, there is no provision for withdrawing from WHO. There is no procedure to withdraw from WHO. Nothing is mentioned in WHO's constitution. But when WHO was formed on 7th April, remember this date. This is the date when WHO was formed. So when WHO was formed on 7th April 1948, and when America joined WHO in 1948, America said America said that we will join you on a condition. Okay, and that condition is that we can withdraw from WHO. Okay, and America also gave a procedure for its withdrawal. So as such, WHO does not mention any procedure for any member country to withdraw, but USA while joining gave a procedure. Okay, USA's legislature called US Congress gave a procedure. Okay, it said that the country could withdraw after giving a 1 year notice. So now that Donald Trump has given a notice to WHO, Donald Trump or USA will stay a member of WHO for 1 more year. And in that time, it will fulfill all its financial obligations. So if you want to withdraw, you have to first basically give that in writing. And then you have to serve a 1 year notice period. In that 1 year notice period, you will fulfill all your financial obligations. And after that, you have nothing to do with this organization. So the procedure is not laid down in WHO or WHO's constitution. But USA, while joining, gave that procedure that in future, if we decide to resign, we will follow this procedure. Now, America is the biggest donor of WHO. Surely, after America's withdrawal, there would be a funding crisis in WHO and it would definitely impact many operations run by WHO, most of the work done by WHO, especially in developing countries like India. That is going to get impacted. But in this executive order, USA says that the consequence of our withdrawal from WHO is fourfold. Okay, there are four things that are going to happen when we are going to withdraw. First, any transfer of US funds and resources to WHO will be paused. All Americans working in WHO in any capacity would be recalled. United States will identify credible and transparent United States and international partners to assume necessary activities previously undertaken by WHO. United States says that we will create a parallel organization along with our partner countries to do all the work earlier done by WHO in the field of health. Clear? Plus, currently WHO was negotiating a pandemic treaty. All the member countries would have signed this pandemic treaty. Okay, this pandemic treaty actually deals with provisions, or it would have provisions which would give us the responsibility and roles of different member countries if another pandemic hits. Okay, so WHO says that COVID-19 was a huge pandemic. So in case another pandemic hits the world, then what should be the roles and responsibilities of different member nations? That should be decided upon now itself. Okay, now when USA will be out of WHO, surely USA won't be a part of this pandemic treaty. Okay, now experts are saying that the biggest impact of America's withdrawal from WHO will be the funding of WHO. Okay, impact on funding. So currently WHO receives its funding through two ways. One is mandatory assessed contributions. So every member state of WHO has to give some amount of money and that is mandatory. Okay, the other source is voluntary contributions made by countries, made by different organizations, NGOs and whatnot. Okay, now the funny thing is that 80% of WHO's funding comes from voluntary contributions. That means the mandatory amount that each country has to give to WHO is just 20% of WHO's total budget. Okay, and in these voluntary contributions, USA had a big role to play. Okay, in fact, USA was the biggest donor for WHO, whether that's mandatory contributions or voluntary contributions. 20%, close to 20%, the exact figure is 21%. 21% of WHO's funding comes from USA. And now that 21% of funding won't come. Now, in case China decides to step up and increase its budgetary allocation to WHO will be short of funds and it would definitely impact its operations in developing countries like India. Okay. Now, about WHO. So, WHO is basically a specialized agency of UN. UN has many specialized agencies, UNICEF, UNESCO, WHO is one of them, and it was established in 1948. It connects nations, partners, and people to promote health. Its headquarters are in Geneva, Switzerland, and it currently has 194 member states. Now, when USA will pull out, it will have 193. Okay. Now, World Health Assembly is the highest decision-making body of WHO. It meets every year, and it has representatives from all member states. Okay. Now, WHO's day-to-day functioning is handled by its Director General. And who appoints this Director General? Well, World Health Assembly. Apart from its headquarters in Geneva, Switzerland, WHO also has 6 regional offices. One in Africa, Americas, that is North, South America, Southeast Asia, Europe, East Mediterranean, and Western Pacific. Okay. Now, India has a great opportunity over here. This news is both good and bad for India. First, if WHO is short of funds, then most of its operations in India would get impacted, and that would have serious consequences for health outcomes in India. Okay, this is the bad news. The good news is that if USA pulls out of WHO, there will be a power vacuum as far as WHO is concerned in this organization. And both India and China are well poised to fill this power vacuum. Okay, so India both has an opportunity and also has some downside to it. Clear? So this is the impact it is going to have on India. All right. Now let's move on to our second news item, which is AI Action Summit. So what is in the news? PM Modi will travel to Paris on Feb 10 to and 11 to co-chair Artificial Intelligence Action Summit hosted by France. This will be Modi's first visit to France in his third term. Okay. Now AI Action Summit is going to be held in Paris, France. And which place of Paris? Grand Palace. Okay. Now, about AI Action Summit. Okay. Now, this summit is basically a summit where different world leaders, industry leaders, businesses, scientists come together and decide what should be the global rule framework or regulatory framework for AI. Okay. The first version of this summit was organized by UK in 2023, and its second version was organized in 2024. The third version is going to be organized by France. Okay, in 2025. It is going to be attended by heads of state, leaders of international organizations, CEOs, and whatnot. Okay, now France has announced that the Paris Summit, which is campaigning for ethical, sustainable, and inclusive AI, will focus on 5 main pillars. What are these 5 main pillars? Well, AI in the service of general interest, how AI can serve public interest. This is a topic of discussion. Then, future of work. With AI, a lot of jobs are going to go down under, they are going to disappear. So, what is the future of work and what skills should people have in advance to get absorbed in the labor markets of the future? Then, innovation and culture. Then, trusted artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence shouldn't go to wrong, shouldn't get into wrong hands. And what should be the rules framework, global framework for AI? Okay, so these are the 5 main pillars on which discussions would happen on February 10th and 11th. By the way, more information will come out once this summit actually starts. Okay, so more information would come out on Feb 10th and Feb 11th. All right. Now let's talk about the most talked about news in the past few days. And that is, what are enemy properties? Now, Saif Ali Khan has been in the news for all the bad things, right? Saif Ali Khan was in the news because of a terrible tragedy that happened in his house, but he's also in the news because of this case, enemy properties case. Okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about what was in the news. So, Madhya Pradesh High Court has asked actor Saif Ali Khan to approach the appellate authority against an order of central government that declared historical properties of the Pataudi family in Bhopal estimated to be worth 15,000 crore as enemy properties. Okay. So, the Pataudi family had a lot of properties in Bhopal, but those properties were declared enemy properties by the government. Now, once a property is declared enemy property, then that property goes to the government. So, Saif Ali Khan actually filed a petition in Madhya Pradesh High Court contesting this designation. Okay, he says that this property shouldn't be designated as enemy property, and I am the inheritor of this property. So, you can't call it enemy property. Okay, now this case is going on, and Madhya Pradesh High Court has said that actor Saif Ali Khan should approach the courts. Okay, now it's a big, I mean, the property is quite huge. Basically, it's worth 15,000 crores. So it's worth a lot. And naturally, Saif Ali Khan approached the courts. Okay, now what are enemy properties and what is this case all about. We'll try to unpack this in detail. Okay. So first of all, you need to understand what enemy properties are. Look, when India, Pakistan, when both these countries got partitioned, there was a lot of movement from India and into India. Now, there were many families in India which were aristocrats. Okay, they had a lot of property, but they had to leave everything and migrate to Pakistan, or they decided to migrate to Pakistan and take their citizenship. Now, the property they left behind was designated as enemy property. Okay, and it was taken by government. So, what are enemy properties basically? It refers to assets both movable and immovable, okay, left behind in India by individuals who migrated to countries designated as enemy nations. So, Indians who were there in India who migrated to other countries took their citizenship, and those countries are designated as India's enemies. Then their properties would be confiscated. Okay. Now, India did not designate Pakistan as its enemy from the beginning. India designated Pakistan as its enemy because of the two wars, 1965 and 71. In fact, India designated China as its enemy after the Indo-China War in 1962. So people who moved out of India and took the citizenship of either China or Pakistan, okay, during the time when these countries were declared as India's enemies, well, their property was confiscated. Okay. Now, under the Defence of India rules formulated under Defence of India Act, these properties were vested with custodian of enemy property for India. So there was a separate office created called custodian of enemy property for India, and this person or this office would manage all these enemy properties confiscated. Okay, this was the case. Now, why is Saif Ali Khan involved in this case? Saif Ali Khan's father did not migrate to Pakistan. Then why is Saif Ali Khan involved in this case? The thing is that Saif Ali Khan's grandmother was the daughter of Begum of Bhopal. Now, Begum of Bhopal or the Bhopal royal family had three sisters. Okay, had three daughters. One of them migrated to Pakistan. So her property was declared as enemy property. But one of them married Saif Ali Khan's grandfather. Okay, he did not migrate, nor did his son. So the property which was in her name, okay, or the property that she inherited, Saif Ali Khan's grandmother, is now being given to Saif Ali Khan as an inheritor. Okay. Now, on the basis of Saif Ali Khan's grandmother's elder sister's migration to Pakistan, Government of India declared all Pataudi properties in Bhopal as enemy properties. But Saif Ali Khan says that you should only declare her properties as enemy properties, keep our family's properties different. Okay, this is the contention. So India says that because your grandmother's elder sister migrated to Pakistan and they did not have any will, so we would assume that the entire property belonged to her and we would declare it enemy property. But Saif Ali Khan says that since she migrated, her property fell to my grandmother. From my grandmother, it fell to my father. From my father, it falls to me. Okay. By the way, there is a separate act also. It is known as Enemy Property Act. And Enemy Property Act says that if your property is declared enemy property, okay, and if after a lot of time, that person whose property was declared enemy property, that person dies, then his son or his daughter cannot inherit that property, even if they are Indian citizens. Okay, so once your property is declared enemy property, it stays with custodian of enemy property, even if the inheritor of that property is an Indian citizen, doesn't matter. So that is why Saif Ali Khan is contesting this designation. Okay, he's contesting that it shouldn't be declared enemy property. So if the court rules that his property shouldn't be declared enemy property, then he can inherit it. Okay. Now, as of January 2018, there are a total of 9,280 enemy properties which have been left behind by Pakistan nationals and 126 Chinese nationals. Because before 1947, there were many Chinese also working in India. Okay, especially Bengal and Northeast. In 2018, Union Cabinet approved the procedure to sell enemy shares. Now, many of these Pakistanis who used to live in India, they had bought shares in various companies of Bombay. Now, when they migrated to Pakistan, their shares also fell to custodian of enemy property, and Government of India sold these shares, which were worth 3,000 crores. Any which way, this is what enemy property is. All right. And our last news item is Chinar Trees of J&K. Well, Jammu and Kashmir government is worried that these beautiful trees, which are the hallmark of Kashmir's beauty, well, these trees are becoming extinct. They are not becoming extinct, but their numbers are dwindling. Okay, so Jammu and Kashmir government has started a new project called Tree Aadhar mission. Okay, now this Tree Aadhar mission would basically, like the Aadhar card numbers each and every citizen of India, right? Similarly, we will have, or J&K will have, a Aadhar card for trees to keep a track of these trees. Okay, they will have a QR code and everything. The initiative involves conducting a census of chinar trees and giving them a unique identity. Over the years, the number of chinar trees has been dwindling. Okay. Now, about chinar trees, what are these chinar trees and why are they so famous? Okay. Chinar, also known as Oriental plane tree, is a maple-like tree with huge canopy and is found in cool climate regions with sufficient water. Now, this tree is characteristic of Western Himalayas, especially Kashmir Valley. It takes 30 to 50 years for a tree to mature and 150 years to reach its full size. The tree can grow up to a height of 30 meters, while its girth ranges from 10 to 15 meters. So they can be long, big, fat trees. Okay. Now, why are these trees famous? Though, like all trees, they have green leaves. Okay. But during the months of autumn, these trees, or the leaves of these trees, change their color to bright red or orange. And when the entire row of trees contains orange leaves, it looks really beautiful. And this is a characteristic sight of Kashmir. Okay. Now, what is the importance of Chinar tree? Well, first of all, Chinar was declared as the state tree of Jammu and Kashmir, though now Jammu and Kashmir is a UT. It is famous, it attracts a lot of tourists. It is a big part of Jammu and Kashmir's art and culture. Okay, it finds a special place in art, literature, craft of Kashmir. Then, it has a lot of religious significance because a lot of Hindu temples and Muslim shrines are built around these trees, and these trees have a special religious significance in these shrines. Okay. Now, do you know that Chinar tree, or the word Chinar, was given by Mughals? Mughals gave this tree this name. And Mughals were responsible for growing these trees in the Kashmir Valley at a big scale, massive scale. In fact, Emperor Jahangir, some people say that Jahangir coined this name, Chinar. Okay. It was Jahangir that planted so many trees in the Chinar trees in the Kashmir Valley. Okay. So Chinar has a special connection with the Mughals. The name Chinar was given to the tree by Mughals. It was considered as a royal tree by Mughals. You can see over here, this is a Mughal miniature painting. Mughals played a significant role in expanding Chinar plantations in the Kashmir Valley and some parts of Chenab region in Jammu. Mughals played a significant role. Oh, I'm sorry. This got repeated. By the way, uh, Jahangir actually built a orchard or a park called Naseem Bagh. It is mentioned in your notes, which is around Dal Lake. In fact, this picture over here is that of Naseem Bagh. Okay, so Jahangir actually planted this Naseem Bagh, and it is said that Naseem Bagh has around 1100 chinar trees, which is a lot. Okay, plus in the middle of Dal Lake there is a small island. Okay, that island is known as Char Chinari because it has four big, fat, beautiful chinar trees. Those four chinar trees were planted by Jahangir again. That is why it is called Char Chinari. Okay, and Naseem Bagh, a very famous park around Dal Lake, again planted by or created by Jahangir. So Mughals actually played a significant role in expanding the area covered by these trees. Okay, and that would be all that we would cover today. That's it from my side, guys. I hope you liked the lecture and I hope it added value to your preparation. By the way, it would add more value if you'll revise this lecture also. Okay, all right. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much, everyone.